bisa memilikimu sepenuhnya.
Orang itu isinya apa?
Bisa memilikimu sepenuhnya. Begitu
At the very beginning of the movie, we are shown an evening scene on an island situated in the middle of the sea. There, a lady had come with her mother to perform black magic called Lintrik. Now, I want to explain that Lintrik is an ancient love spell. With its help, we can make anyone obsessed with us or fall deeply in love. And in its sequel, exactly that happened. However, the story here is going to be quite different, as this movie is part 1 and I'm bringing it to you by popular demand. Anyway, there was a dark shaman who helps this lady. No information about this shaman is given to us in the movie. Actually, in Indonesian culture, a dark shaman refers to a black magic user. Well, we are also shown how this shaman, Lintrik, begins to perform a ritual for casting a powerful spell. During this ritual, he first takes someone's blood in the bowl, then proceeds to kill a chicken within it, removes its liver, and then feeds it to the lady. Following this, the lady must remain in the ocean throughout the rituals, which last the entire night. Upon the ritual's conclusion, a demon emerges, and we are also given a quick glimpse of this demon. Anyway, from this point, the scene then shifts towards a different function. Here, we witness a baby shower for a lady named Uni, which was being celebrated in a truly grand fashion. Everyone present is now thoroughly enjoying this special event. And from the conversations among the guests, we discover that Uni is actually Anton's second wife. Anton's first wife was named Nuri. Now what actually happened was that Nuri had a miscarriage, and Nuri and Anton couldn't have any children. Because of this, Nuri had allowed Anton to marry again. Anton marries Uni, whose baby shower it was today, meaning this happened because of the child. Nuri and Uni used to live in separate houses. After the function ended, Anton went to drop Nuri home. Upon reaching her house, Nuri asked him to come inside, but he refused and started to leave. However, Anton noticed that Nuri had become quite sad because of this. Due to her reaction, he agreed to stay there for a little while. He basically stayed to have some coffee. Now they both enter the house and Nuri is preparing coffee for Anton. Suddenly, Nuri accidentally drops a spoon onto the floor. As she bends down to pick it up, that's when we catch a glimpse of a demon behind her who was sitting there. Well, the scene now shifts to Anton, who was hearing distinct footsteps coming from the ceiling above him. However, Nuri, standing nearby, wasn't hearing any sound at all. After this, we then see that Uni was patiently waiting for Anton. She was sitting there, clearly worried about Anton's safety. Just then, we are suddenly shown a revealing flashback. This reveals that Uni and Nuri were once best friends during their college days, and Anton and Nuri had recently begun a new relationship, actively dating. Nuri then introduced Anton to Uni. Uni, in fact, was also quite attracted to Anton. From the conversations between the two friends, we learned that they had made a promise to each other that their friendship should never be ruined because of a third person. However, seeing Anton with Nuri, Uni felt a strong sense of jealousy. Well, one day, both of them were sitting inside the library when Uni was secretly watching them. Suddenly, someone from behind starts strangling Uni and Uni abruptly wakes up from her sleep. And then we realize that this flashback was actually Uni's dream. Well, Uni gets up and checks her neck in the mirror and then goes to eat something. Now, as Uni was sitting at the dining table and eating, we noticed that someone was approaching Uni from behind. Uni turns around to look, but she doesn't see anyone there at all. But suddenly, she starts to hear someone singing, and Uni's stomach begins to ache intensely. It felt as if a baby was desperately trying to come out of Uni's womb. Then, just as suddenly, the singing stops, and with it, Uni's stomach pain also completely subsides. Uni then goes to her room and lies down on the bed, just as Anton arrives. Uni was angry at him, but Anton, without any reaction, quietly came and lay down. He placed his hand on Uni's stomach when suddenly Uni heard the distinct sound of Anton's car. Uni immediately got up and looked out the window, and Anton was indeed outside. Then, Uni, filled with a sudden fear, quickly turned around and she understood that it wasn't Anton at all. Whatever was there in that room was incredibly creepy. Now, this creepy thing was staring at Uni in a very strange and unsettling way. Anyway, Uni rushes to the gate and tries desperately to open it, but the gate just wouldn't budge. She turns back around again, but that fake Anton had completely disappeared from the spot. It must have definitely been that demon. Anton parks his bike and then comes into the house. Uni's mother tells him he really should stay with Uni because she desperately needs him. Anton then apologizes to her and goes to Uni's side. Am die swipe tap die. Now Yuni's mother was just heading to her room when suddenly a small bundle appeared right under her feet. When she opened it and looked inside, she was absolutely shocked because it contained items used for black magic. The very next morning, Yuni's mother was warning Yuni to be extremely cautious. Suddenly, Yuni started to vomit and she quickly rushed to the bathroom. She was actually vomiting blood, and from this vomit, nails and screws were expelled. Upon seeing this, Yuni became extremely frightened and began to scream. When Yuni's mother rushed into the bathroom, those nails and blood had already disappeared from the basin. This was a very dangerous thing because such things often happen in black magic. Anyway, the next morning, Anton takes Yuni to the hospital for a checkup. Now, on their way back home, Anton spots someone in the middle of the woods who was clearly watching them. Anton pulls over, gets out of the car to check, but he doesn't see anyone there, so he starts to drive away. That's when we catch another glimpse of a demon who was indeed keeping a close eye on them. Nori then dials Anton's office number, but it's Mr. E who answers the call. He informs Nori that Anton had actually left for home quite early that day. Later, when Anton and Nori finally arrive back home from the hospital, Yuni discovers that Anton had already arranged for his aunt to come over and look after her. Yuni becomes extremely upset and quite angry with Anton over this particular decision. Yuni simply did not like Anton's aunt at all. Well, after this, Nori calls Yuni and Anton meets her there. She gets quite angry about this because Anton had a chance to stay at Nori's house today, but he didn't go. Then Anton explains that Yuni is unwell and so he won't be able to come. After that, Nori asks about Yuni's health and hangs up the phone. Basically, these two wives would take turns with Anton. For instance, he would spend the first day with Nuri and then the next with Yuni. However, the very next morning, we see Nuri arrive at Yuni's house to inquire about her health, and she had also brought some healthy food for her. Following this, Nuri then leaves. Now Yuni goes to her room where someone was singing again, and Yuni's stomach suddenly started hurting again, and the baby in her womb also started moving. This caused Yuni a lot of pain. Now Yuni calls out for her mother, but no one comes. Now Yuni herself enters the hall, and then she spots a shadow near the window. Frightened, Yuni starts to leave, but then the demon appears right behind her. Yuni was extremely terrified by this sight, and she immediately starts to run. Just then, the demon throws a heavy cabinet down on Yuni, but Yuni manages to dodge it by quickly moving to the side. Yuni, now completely terrified, began to cry loudly, and the demon looked truly horrifying. The demon approaches Yuni and begins to stroke her stomach, and Yuni was screaming and crying hysterically out of sheer terror. Just then, Anton's aunt suddenly appears on the scene, and that demon vanishes from the spot instantly. The aunt then calms Yuni down and offers her some water to drink, but at that moment, Yuni rushes into the bathroom and once again, she starts to vomit, from which to her horror, worms emerged, but this time a large clump of hair also came out of her mouth, and seeing this, Yuni becomes extremely terrified. Now, after putting Yuni to sleep in the room, her mother and aunt were talking when Anton suddenly arrives on the scene. Now, both of them inform Anton that Yuni is quite unwell, and hearing this news, Anton quickly rushes to Yuni's room. He then sees that Yuni was scratching the wall with her fingernails and performing a very strange dance. Anton immediately shouts out, calling for his aunt and his mother. They both quickly enter the room, and upon seeing Yuni, they were both utterly shocked. Yuni then begins to walk on the wall, still doing that strange dance, and this sight absolutely terrified all three of them. By looking at Yuni's eyes, we could tell that someone had possessed her. Yuni's mother asks her, "Who exactly are you?" But that spirit or demon, whoever it was, began to tell Yuni's mother that evil people like her would never be able to live peacefully. After saying this, it departed from there, and Yuni then regained her consciousness. Everyone present was extremely frightened, and they gently laid Yuni down on her bed. It meant that some very strange and unusual things were occurring there. No one truly understood whether it was a demon or a spirit in the end. Anyway, the scene now shifts to the next morning, where we see Nori. Nori's mother arrives to meet her, and the two of them are talking. Nori tells her that she is very sad and she desperately needs Anton, but Anton had completely forgotten her, and Nori was crying so much because of this. Well, after this, we are shown Yuni's mother, who is traveling deep into a dense forest, and then, to our shock, we discover that the shaman shown at the start of the film was the very one Yuni's mother had gone to for assistance. She explains everything, how strange things have been happening with Yuni for a few days, but then the shaman hands her a pot, instructing her to place it inside the house, above the cabinet. Now, Yuni's mother does exactly the same thing. She brings that pot and places it on the cabinet, and while she was doing this, Anton's aunt had seen her, but she quietly leaves from that spot. Now Yuni was unable to sleep because of a severe stomach ache. She was feeling quite restless and troubled. Anyway, we see the scene of the shaman who was trying to make the Lintrik spell even more powerful. Just then, that demon approaches him, and the shaman was absolutely terrified when he saw him. And now the shaman begins to plead with the demon, expressing his apologies, saying, "I'm truly sorry, I had no idea you were responsible for all of this." However, the demon mercilessly strikes him down. In the very next scene, that same demon proceeds to Yuni's mother, who was found seated within the cabinet room of their home. The demon had launched a brutal assault on Yuni's mother, completely stripping her of her consciousness. As a direct consequence of this attack, Yuni's mother is left permanently paralyzed. Now, hearing her mother's voice, Yuni arrives at the scene and then she sees that her aunt had already reached there before her. Seeing her mother in such a terrible state, Yuni starts blaming her aunt, accusing her that she must be the one who did this to her mother. Just then, Anton arrives and finds Yuni fighting with her aunt. Now, the aunt starts claiming that she is completely innocent and had nothing to do with what happened when all of this took place. She starts claiming her innocence, stating that she wasn't even present when all of this occurred. But Yuni then tells Auntie to leave her house, which causes Auntie to cry profusely. Anton then comforts her and immediately calls for a doctor. Anyway, the very next morning, Auntie had already left for her own home. After this, Nuri arrives there and Yuni was quite happy to see her. She then shows Nuri her room. Nuri was going to stay there for a few days because Anton actually had to go on a business trip. Anton then says goodbye to them and leaves the house. Suddenly, Yuni started having stomach pain again. Nuri handles him. After this, Nuri and Yuni go to the kitchen because both were feeling hungry. Nuri is cutting vegetables for food, and while cutting vegetables, Nuri starts using the knife very fast and she ends up cutting her own fingers. Seeing this, Yuni became very frightened. Now Yuni tries to stop Nuri. Just then, Nuri glares at Yuni angrily and then stabs her in the stomach. Due to this, Yuni screams out very loudly and then she wakes up. This makes us understand that it was actually Yuni's terrifying nightmare. After this, Nuri warns her not to daydream and then they both head to the kitchen to prepare food. Yuni realizes that the dream she had just experienced, the very same things were repeating in reality. Nuri is again quickly cutting vegetables, looking at Yuni with anger and then stabs a knife into her stomach. Yuni now regains consciousness once more and this leaves her extremely frightened. He was experiencing very severe hallucinations. Seeing this, Nuri leads him out of the kitchen, seats him on a chair and then she herself goes into the kitchen. Now, in the next scene, we see that Nuri had prepared the food and Yuni is feeding soup to her paralyzed mother with her own hands. But Yuni's mother was very scared. It seemed she was afraid of Nuri trying to signal Yuni something, but Yuni didn't understand when Nuri came bringing a herbal juice for her. It seemed Yuni's mother was gesturing to stop her from drinking that juice, but Yuni didn't understand and drank the juice. Now Nuri was staring intently at them. Well, in the next scene, we see Anton's aunt, who from the very beginning had a suspicion that someone was performing dark magic inside the house. Now she goes to the very same shaman whom Yuni and her mother had previously visited. She becomes terrified upon seeing them because they were already dead there and worms were crawling all over their bodies. Because of this, she immediately went to get a master. Then, inside the house, we see Yuni's mother who is lying in her room when suddenly the Nyai demon enters Yuni's room and tells her that you humans always break your promises. This means that the original Lenturic demon was no longer there. Someone had definitely summoned Nyai, the demon empress. Yuni's mother, overcome with fear, closes her eyes, and when she opens them again, she finds Nuri standing right there. This implies that Nyai had actually possessed Nuri's body all along. So essentially, Nuri had performed black magic. And what we come to understand is that while Yuni had indeed practiced black magic, Nuri had actually performed an even more dangerous and potent form of it. At this moment, Nuri was extremely angry, and she was speaking quite furiously to Yuni's mother, just as Yuni herself walked in. Immediately after, Nuri calmed down, becoming completely normal. She then explained that she was merely having a conversation with Yuni's mother and was simply trying to help fix her feet. Following this, both of them proceeded to their own rooms to get some sleep. The scene then shifts and we observe Yuni lying awake on her bed, unable to find any sleep. After lying down for a while, she started to feel a little sleepy when suddenly she began to levitate in the air by herself. She opens her eyes and starts screaming after seeing all this. She was having a lot of pain in her stomach. Her baby was moving quite a lot. She calls out to her mother, calls out to Nuri, but no one comes to help her. Now we see that the baby in Yuni's womb is moving very much and wants to come out. Yuni suddenly has internal bleeding and she falls down. The scene was truly quite terrifying. At this point, Yuni becomes completely drenched in blood and begins to cry out in agonizing pain. It was then that Nuri suddenly appeared and she angrily confronts her, saying, "You had stolen my husband from me, and now you will also have to endure the very same pain that I have endured until today." So, Allah, the hatred Nuri had suppressed in her heart until today, she was spewing out now. Anyway, suddenly Nuri starts attacking Yuni and Yuni pushes Nuri, trying to run out of the room. But not being able to walk, she fell onto the floor. Then Nuri approaches from behind, seizes Uni, and with terrifying force, violently pulls the baby out from inside her. Uni, shrieking in agony, immediately collapsed and lost consciousness right there. Nuri then takes the baby for herself, drags Uni forcefully out of the house, and discards her into a deep pit located near the bushes. This meant Nuri wanted to eliminate everything that was driving Anton away from her. Well, then Anton's aunt brings an expert home. They see the bloodstains inside the house and follow those marks. They reach Uni outside the house. Now both of them pull Nuri out of the pit, and aunt asks Uni, "Who was it that did all this?" Then Uni names Nuri, saying that she was the one who did it all. Uni names Nuri, claiming she was responsible for everything. Just then, Anton, who had been out on an errand, also arrived, and upon seeing the bloodstains, he immediately rushed towards Uni's room, but he didn't find Uni there, so he went outside the house to look. There, he found Uni along with her aunt and Ustad. He noticed that Uni's condition was extremely critical. Anton then picked up Uni, carried her to his room, and laid her down. He then began searching for Nuri, wondering why she had done such a thing. Now, Nuri has locked herself in a room. With Uni's child, she was performing some kind of sacrifice ritual. She intended to offer this child to Nyai, and that would be her ultimate deal. And Nyai was supporting Nuri precisely because she was fully aware of what Uni had eventually done here. Specifically, Uni and her mother. Both of them have performed this Lintrik magic right here, targeting Anton. That's exactly how she ended up marrying him. Otherwise, he was truly in love with Nuri. And I also believe that the miscarriages Nuri suffered were due to this very magic, specifically because of black magic, so that Anton would be forced to enter into another marriage. Oh, sorry. And who could be better than Nuri's best friend? Well, now Ustad and Anton break down the gate and enter that room, seeing that Nuri here has been possessed by Nyai. Nuri pushes them away with a gesture and vanishes from there. Ustad and Anton are looking for her, and Ustad reaches the basement. There, he finds Nuri in a possessed state, dangerously attacking them. However, the master was no amateur. He escapes from Nuri, that is, from Nyai, and now he suddenly starts reading the Quran, which causes Nuri to weaken, meaning the Nyai demon began to lose its power. She then comes out of the demon's possession, and we can see Nyai behind it. Now Nyai manifests herself before Ustad. Ustad was continuously reciting verses from the Quran, which made Nyai completely powerless. She grew weak and then vanished from that spot. At that very moment, Nuri, determined to complete her mission, enters Uni's room and attempts to kill her. Nuri was just about to finish Uni with a knife when Uni suddenly regained consciousness and managed to save herself. Uni quickly got up from her bed and was running towards the gate, but Nuri came at her again to stab her. As soon as Uni opened the door, Anton appeared outside, and Nuri accidentally stabbed Anton right in the heart. Uni tries to support Anton, but he had already collapsed onto the floor. Now Uni holds him tightly and starts to cry, and Nuri also becomes emotional witnessing this. This means that the very person she was fighting to protect, she herself had inadvertently caused his demise. Suddenly, she's overwhelmed by vivid flashbacks of her and Anton's college days, remembering their once strong friendship and how everything tragically fell apart. Ultimately, neither of them can save Anton, and he tragically passes away right there. So what both of them had been striving for ended right there at that very moment. As a result, Nuri fled from that place and was never seen by anyone ever again. This implies that she too will now forever remain confined within the guild. Anyway, after this, we are shown the real Uni, whose interview was still ongoing. She expresses that she has profound regrets about these events to this very day, and she has never been able to forget Nuri or her husband Anton. And boom, with that, this movie comes to an end right here. So, my friends, this was the story of the film Sosok Ketiga Part 1. I hope that you enjoyed this true incident.